LAPD is struggling to hire more police officers. Good evening. Once again, everybody. I'm Michael Brownlee.
And I'm Colleen Williams. A new campaign debuted online today, trying to appeal to younger people who might never have considered law enforcement as a career. But it comes at a time when the future budget of various city departments is in question.
Investigative reporter Eric Leonard is live on our newsroom now with those details for us. Eric.
Hi, Michael and Colleen. Well, as of today, the LAPD has just over 8,700 officers on its roster. That is far below the mayor's target of 9,300 officers. And at City Hall, it feels like that goal could be slipping further and further away as the city faces a massive budget shortfall.
It isn't flashy. It isn't loud. Safe to say, it's not for everyone.
So that there is the unrivaled since 1869 video that's out online today, produced with the help of an outside ad agency that was given directions to find ways to appeal to people who grew up with smartphones and might themselves be skeptical of government and its institutions. This video and social media messages are also focused on the wide range of jobs within the police department, many of them tech-based, that may not be apparent to people outside the agency.
I think that there are so many opportunities within this organization that is unmatched anywhere else. Having over 250 different assignments that you can work in the Los Angeles Police Department speaks volumes to what we have to offer.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we know that the summer is coming up when you see violence and chaos in these liberal cities, okay? We've talked about the teen takeovers that are happening in Chicago, and then we have to go out to LA, Los Angeles, where a mob took over downtown and damaged buildings and stopped trains, okay? And this is just par for the course in regards to what we see every single summer in these liberal cities that are out of control. And this story out in LA is particularly interesting because they're also facing a budget crisis as well too, which means that they're short on police staff, which could be contributing to what we're seeing here in regards to nobody being arrested. And I think that's what people are outraged about. The fact is that you have this stuff happening and nobody is being held accountable for it. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get into this.
Police in riot gear cracked down on a mob gone out of control near downtown Los Angeles late last night. A large group vandalized police cars, metro trains, and businesses. Welcome to the Fox 11 Weekend News. I'm Laura Diaz. Susan has the night off. The chaos left a trail of destruction. Fox 11's Christina Gonzalez live in downtown LA with what happened. Christina?
Yeah, you can see some of the destruction behind us, some of the windows as they tried to break in. You'll notice that people who work in this area did not want their faces on camera when we talked to them. They say this crowd was pretty scary. Take a look. Crowds of people leaving the rooftop of an empty warehouse on Trinity Street in downtown LA. LAPD responding to what they describe as an unpermitted music event that quickly escalated. Fireworks lit on the street as the crowd moved on to Washington Boulevard, with LAPD tactical units right behind them.
Yeah, so apparently these warehouse parties are a thing in LA, okay? And part of the reason why, and I learned this from a source that lives in the area, is that these warehouses are empty, okay? Some of these warehouses are owned by the Chinese, right? And the owners are having a hard time renting out these warehouses to businesses, again, partly because the warehouses are empty in the first place due to the COVID policies of cities like LA, shutting down businesses and stuff like that. A lot of businesses had to leave, and they don't really want to come back, right? So they have a hard time renting them out to businesses. So they've decided to make money off of these warehouses by hosting these parties, right? Or allowing these groups of people to host these music parties, okay? And that is what you're seeing here, okay? I guess this was after the music party was over. You have the mob come out of the party, probably high, drunk, right? Strung out on drugs, okay? Doing all types of weird stuff that they normally do in these parts of the country. And then they start rioting and looting, vandalizing property, shutting down stuff, you know, destroying businesses. Again, we've seen this far too many times in this country, okay? And a lot of these large liberal cities where there's a lawlessness, this is what you see.
Video here of metro trains covered in graffiti. Police saying the line was temporarily stopped in Washington where partiers marked up the trains as they banged on windows at stuck passengers. The crowd leaving their graffiti mark not only on the trains but the businesses all along Washington at Trinity.
It definitely is a lot.
Dumbfounded customers reacting at the few businesses that opened today at a mini mall off Washington where almost every inch of walls and windows covered with graffiti. Hundreds and hundreds of people. Y todo este graffiti, all this stuff. It could have been worse, he says, pointing to the only broken windows, those of the Waba grill that remain closed. They went overboard, says the man at a mobile key business. His concern echoes others I spoke with off camera who say they'd seen illegal party crews come out of the surrounding warehouses, scribble some graffiti, but nothing quite like this.
Kids will be kids, but yeah, it's definitely a bit much.
Yeah, I don't think these were kids, right? They didn't look like kids to me. Okay, these look like grown people, right? These look like adults, to be honest with you. Again, if they were children and they were teens, I'd tell you that, but this looks like a different crowd than what we normally see. So yeah, these are definitely not kids at all.
It'll be kids, but yeah, it's definitely a bit much. A little too much sugar or something.
Or something, indeed. Now, no arrest, but LAPD saying they did have one officer injured, transported to a hospital. The extent of the injury is not known, although we are told they are not life-threatening. Live in downtown Los Angeles, I'm Christina Gonzalez, back to you in the studio, Laura.
Christina, this was incredibly disrespectful to people and property. Any idea what led up to it?
They're saying it was some kind of music event that was not, they did not get a permit. And, you know, we have a lot of the empty warehouses here get taken over for raves, but usually they have some kind of permit. This, according to LAPD, was not. They just kind of took over the place. And people here saying they're beginning to have a problem with that. A lot of empty buildings in the area.
All right.
Yeah, so the biggest problem with this story, no arrest, right? No arrest. So it's like, again, how do you prevent stuff like this from happening when you don't make arrests, right? When you do not actually punish people. Now, apparently there's a major staffing shortage, okay? And that may be part of the reason why there were no arrests, is because maybe they didn't have enough officers to make mass arrests. I don't know. But again, this city is really in a bad shape, right? It's in bad shape. And we all know why, okay, the leadership. So without further ado, let's watch this segment on the budget shortfall facing the city of LA and the shortage of police, okay, because this problem could get worse before it gets better, because they may end up actually cutting LAPD, even though they are already short on officers.
And then we get to the crisis facing municipal government in Los Angeles. The city of Los Angeles facing a $1 billion budget shortfall, the worst we have seen since the Great Recession. All sorts of things are on the table, including the elimination of over 400 positions at the Los Angeles Police Department. Tracy Park is a member of the Los Angeles City Council. She represents District 11, which is the Pacific Palisades, Marina del Rey, West Los Angeles. And you had a news conference this week where you said, listen, we know we got a problem. Don't cut these positions at the LAPD. Why?
Because cutting those essential positions is a risk to public safety in Los Angeles.
Why is that?
Well, it will mean that cases go uninvestigated, unsolved, cops will be pulled off the streets, and criminals will remain free.
These are crime scene photographers. These are people who analyze the data that end up in court.
These are the folks who actually conduct the investigations and make our police department function. Cases will go unaddressed entirely, or police officers will be pulled out of their job duties and assignments to cover the work. Firing these 400 highly skilled professionals is not going to reduce the workload at LAPD. And it's inconsistent with the voter mandate that we heard in November of last year to solve the crime crisis in LA.
And but listen, they have to solve this budget crisis. Where, if not here, where do you cut?
Well, my approach to this would be keep the essentials, cut the bloat, and demand accountability. We have
cut these salaries, right? Start with the salaries of the Democrats that are running, right? You talk about what do you cut? You cut the salaries. Karen Bass should not be getting a paycheck, okay? All these Democrats running the city should not be getting a paycheck, okay? But what you're seeing here, guys, this is the actual legacy of George Floyd, right? We talked about this yesterday, seeing him boo-hoo, whine, and cry. Racism over the backlash they got for celebrating the anniversary of George Floyd's death, right? It's just kind of funny because when you talk about the legacy of, again, George Floyd and what happened after that, this is the legacy. Police quitting all across the country, budget shortfalls, mobs being emboldened to commit acts of violence, criminals not being arrested, right? No accountability, no responsibility whatsoever. Yeah, so this is the legacy. What we're witnessing right here. That's what George Floyd has led to. That's what it's caused. Okay? So I want people to understand that. Everything you're seeing happening, again, in my opinion, is because of what happened with George Floyd, okay? And the Democrat leadership in these cities that thought that defunding the police was a good idea, right? So again, they defund the police, and then you don't have enough police to fight crime. Crime gets out of control. Businesses leave, which means you lose tax revenue. When you lose tax revenue, then you lose money that you need to hire more police, which means that police are going to be chronically understaffed, which means they're going to be making a lot of overtime, which means that that's going to drive up the budget and the deficit even more, even though you don't have the revenue to make up for it because the businesses have left. Yeah, defund the police. That movement is the worst thing to happen to this country besides COVID, right? Those two things happening at the same time destroyed these cities. That's the honest to God truth.
Programs and services that are inefficient, that are duplicative of work being done by other agencies. We've spent billions of dollars year after year on homelessness and gotten nowhere.
At your news conference this last week, you had 2 other council members with you. There are 15. There are members of the council who are not with you on this. There are some members of the council that campaign getting rid of the LAPD. They would say, listen, you're lucky we're not cutting uniformed officers. Do you have the votes to restore these positions?
You know, I think that we will be able to hopefully keep as much of this intact as possible. But you're right. There are members of this council that would like to see LAPD not only downsized, but entirely defunded and abolished. But that is not consistent with what a majority of Angelenos want.
How concerned are you that the Department of Justice, the U.S. government, is thinking about cutting off aid to LA because of a sanctuary city status?
Well, you know, it's hard to predict what will or won't happen or what will or won't come out of Washington, D.C. But yes, we depend on federal grants for many, many aspects of governance in LA.
We'll talk about police, though. A lot of people out there would be shocked to find out how many uniformed officers are paid by Department of Justice money from Washington.
That's right. And on many, many critical aspects of policing in Los Angeles, from protecting our critical infrastructure, working across state and federal platforms on multi-agency task forces, that work is absolutely essential. And if the funding goes away, LA doesn't participate.
Yeah. So the solution to that is to roll back your sanctuary city policy, to work with the federal government in order to enforce the laws, which will help bring down crime, right? If you get the illegal immigrant criminals out of the neighborhoods, that's going to help bring down crime, right? That's going to help local law enforcement. If you work with the federal government, if the federal government and local law enforcement, if they're working hand in hand to fight crime, that's going to be very effective, right? That's going to help solve the problem. So that's why it blows my mind that you have these Democrats essentially experiencing a crime crisis and rejecting help from the federal government, right? If I was one of these mayors, I'm like, nah, y'all come on in, right? What you want? I'm gonna give you anything that you need, right? Any building that you need, like, what do you need? How can we help you guys help us, right? That's what I would do. And I would have them come in and be like, yeah, you, not only can you help us arrest the illegal immigrants, you can help us arrest the other criminals as well, too. We'd be more than happy to fight side by side with the federal government in order to protect our communities, right? I would love that, okay? If I was a mayor, I would allow the Trump administration right on in, right? I'd say, don't just help us out with the illegals, help us out with everybody else as well, too. Let's get some of these hoodlums, these young scholars, right? These teenage, agents of chaos and the adult agents of chaos, too. Let's get them all off the street, right? Let's just clean up everything. That's what I would do. That's what I would want, right? If I was mayor. But again, these people that are running, these cities, man, they lack common sense, okay? And they really are their own worst enemy when it comes to the problems that are plaguing these liberal cities. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.